Hello and welcome to Credible Talk. I'm Aarica Mims. We are so excited to bring you part 2 of our conversation with Chairman of Global Retail at Newmark, Mark Masinter. In case you missed it, please be sure to check out part 1 of our conversation, where Eric and I discuss Mark's impressive career start, his work with restoration hardware, and his personal experiences with Steve Jobs. In the meantime, here's part 2 of our discussion.
You know, in chatting with you before, the Warby Parker, their explosive growth has been a big point of pride for you personally. And so I'm wondering, you know, what was the most impactful part of being a part of Warby's growth for y'all?
All of these are really like how these relationships start are all.
Where was Warby at the time?
So Warby at the time was almost, it was 99.9% a direct consumer business. Mm-hmm. It was a digitally native direct consumer business that early on basically said, this is how we're going to touch our customer, we're going to sell direct. I thought their model was crazy. I was like, who's going to, you know, get 5 or 6 pair of glasses, try them on and send them back? I mean, it's just, and then it worked. But their lead investor is a company called Forerunner Ventures. Their founder is a woman by the name of Tristan Simon, who's become a dear friend, and she is truly one of the absolute foremost leaders in early stage consumer companies. And so one day she called me. We really had developed a really incredible friendship. And she said, hey, have you ever heard of this company called Warby Parker? And I said, I had. Didn't know much about them. She was their lead investor, and you know they've been having a lot of discussion about the physical store and should they do it, and she said, would I be interested in meeting the founders someday next time I'm in New York? And I said, you bet. In fact, I'm here right now. She goes, oh my God, that's incredible. Would you mind, do you have time to meet him? I said, sure, I'll do anything for you. That trip, I got just fortunate that they had a window, and I went and met with Neil and David, and we just had the most engaging, fun conversations. These guys are just super bright, really understood their business, and just seemed like genuinely just really good people. And so we just talked. We talked about how we do what we do and what I thought about physical retail. It just turned into a really nice conversation, and eventually led to us coming on board and helping them, and they allowed us to make a tiny investment in the company, which I was grateful for. It's been fun being a part of their growth strategy ever since.
That's awesome.
Look, physical retail, many years ago, people were saying stores are dead, physical retail is dead, everything's going to happen direct consumer. What we now realize is about 20% of sales, max, it depends on the company, is direct consumer. The expense of acquiring that customer online is not profitable. Mm-hmm. The best way to acquire a customer is open a great store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they're going to hit all your channels once they become a customer. That was our belief then, and that's our belief now. And so that's why we're so immersed in physical retail.
I want to switch subjects for a minute. You said earlier that you would much rather open a retail store on a cool street rather than in a physical mall or an indoor mall.
Yeah.
Talk about your Henderson Avenue project that you've been working on.
Yeah, that's a passion play. And I love it. It's one of the hardest things we've ever done. It started with the belief that Dallas needed a really cool shopping street. Mm-hmm. If you look at some of the great cities in America, you know, they have them, the older cities. But mm-hmm. Dallas was really, the shopping, if you will, was North Park Mall, the Galleria, Highland Park Village, you know, mm-hmm. stuff like that. Knox Street was starting to evolve. I mean, we brought Apple to Knox Street. We brought Restoration Hardware. But it was a small street. And obviously it's become a phenomenal street.
Yeah.
But we felt like Dallas could use a street like an Abbot Kinney in Venice Beach, mm-hmm. a King Street like in Charleston, a mm-hmm. 23rd Street like Portland, parts of Soho, you name it. And so that became my passion. I was like, I'm going to be in Dallas forever. I want to be part of something. Knox was pretty much controlled by a few people. Now it's really controlled by less than that.
Yeah. And
they're going to do some great things. And I felt the opportunity was to try to assemble as much real estate as I could on Henderson. Knox-Henderson's a district. Mm-hmm. I mean, it has an exit. So I was like, okay, let Knox and Henderson be cousins.
Yeah.
Let them be brothers, and they'll play off of each other. And so we were able, it started in 2012, we were able to convince a private equity firm out of Los Angeles to partner with us to acquire a bunch of real estate up and down.
Arcadia?
That it was CIM, and they were our partner up until about a year and a half ago, and Acadia essentially came and recapped the partnership. And now we're about to see it through to this development that we've been working on. It took us 4 years to get it rezoned. That was a lot of fun.
I bet.
I've been proud of how we did it and the outcome.
So scale, size, scope, what are the uses?
It's low density. The entitlements are very prescriptive, and that was our collaboration with the neighborhood. It was, let's not create a bunch of apartments. Let's create low density retail and kind of elevated office. The tallest building is 3 stories, and there's lots of 1-story and 2-story buildings. So there's a total of about 10 separate buildings.
Wow.
We're going to be building as part of this development, plus there's 2 levels of underground parking. So it'll be kind of the car repository for the neighborhood. So when you get there, you can park and spread out through the neighborhood. So it's going to be fun, and hard about it is hopefully you're going to look at it, you're going to feel like a lot of different families own these buildings, and because their design is very unique and different. The typology is unique and different. It's relatable, but not similar at all. And so we felt like Henderson was a street where you should do fun and playful things, and that kind of low scale, low intensity, connected to the neighborhood thing was what we were going to do. And so it's, in total, it's just under 170,000 square feet of stuff, but mostly retail, a couple restaurants, and some elevated office.
Do you have any restaurant groups that you want to talk about here?
Because we warned you, like we like to talk about
No.
restaurants.
I mean, look, it's food and beverage is super important anywhere, and it's part of creating culture. If you pick the right restaurant operators, it's part of culture building. And so we're going to be very thoughtful about the kind of food and beverage we bring. The city now, I mean, think about how the city's evolved. The food and beverage talent that's here locally and homegrown is really fantastic. And there's some really great people that are now coming to Dallas and coming to Texas. And so we want to make sure that we're just not number 2 or 3 of the same concept. We want to do something interesting and different that works with the neighborhood.
Very neat. You've had Open Realty advisors since you basically got out of college and had great success, and eventually Open Realty was acquired by Newmark. And then separate from that, which I assume this Henderson project falls under, is your Ignite Rebees investment firm that you founded alongside Tristan Simon. And Tristan is a person that we've heard a lot about over the years and gotten to know over a recent project that we're working on with y'all. And seems super knowledgeable and has got great restaurant experience as well. So how did you two come together to create that company?
So it started off in the most organic way. We started off as a bunch of knucklehead drinking buddies, and we forged a great friendship. We were introduced, we kind of knew each other 25, 30 years ago, but we didn't really know each other, and kind of a mutual, probably closer friend to Tristan, kind of a emerging friend of mine, said, you guys have got to meet each other. You're going to really hit it off. And so he hosted, his name was Bill Lennox, amazing man. Another one of blessed memory, just gone too soon. Bill we had a guy's date. We went to Bob's Steak and Chop House, wherever he
Such a guy's date.
It was so manly. And drank a lot of martinis, and and that was really it. And so Tristan and I just started a real friendship. I invested in some of his early restaurants, and the first real estate development and investment we ever did together was Henderson. And a lot of what drove me to wanting to do something on Henderson was because the energy and spirit that his restaurants had created on Henderson. I mean, really, Henderson really didn't become Henderson until Tristan.
Totally.
What was his lineup? He had Victor Tangos.
He had the Porch, which is still there. Hibiscus.
Yes,
Hibiscus was awesome.
Fireside Pies, and you could argue that Fireside Pies, a pizza shop, was what really started to make Henderson Henderson.
Yeah.
It's amazing
Yeah.
what can happen culturally with restaurants, and the value creation with creating something culturally significant and what it can do to create value around. So Tristan joined me and my partners in that first investment. And then through the years, really, Tristan's become family. We're best friends. My kids don't know if he's their best friend, uncle, brother. By the way, I'll give you a fun fact. I don't know anybody that's ever read 30 quantum physics books. He's read 30 in a year.
No, all I know is just from our experience working with him
Yeah.
and you is both of y'all are incredibly brilliant in what you
Yes.
do. So it's no surprise.
If you were to line up my IQ with his, you would probably figure out that there's one brilliant person. We both are, I would say from a work standpoint, we're so committed to doing great work.
Yeah.
We want to do the hard stuff, and if we're going to do it, it has to be something that we're going to be really proud of. We're not commercial. And to a fault. I mean, we probably could do more things and make more money, but it would hurt our soul. We'd rather do things that when someone looks at it 20 or 30 years from now, I could care less if someone says Mark and Tristan did that. I don't care. What I do care is if someone says, man, whoever did that, you could tell they really cared.
I have a question. So we're KDC's in the office business, right?
Yeah.
And build to suits. Obviously, things are shifting in a way that makes those projects in more urban, mixed-use environments much more valuable to our corporate clients. And so it's that live, work, play.
Yep.
It's all the things that people, it seems cliche, but it really is true, the flight to quality. So in your development, like the Henderson development
Yep.
or other future developments, how do you look at the office piece of that equation?
Office is like a bad word right now in the capital markets world
Sure.
and the development world. I look at it, if I was going to go build an office park or just a building that wasn't very interesting, wasn't connected to something special, I wouldn't do it. But we're building office. Like you're going to see on our Henderson development, we are building something very bespoke. And it's going to be what we believe, everything we're creating on Henderson with the type of retail, with the type of environment, with the type of experience that's going to happen on the ground plane. The office that we're going to create is going to be so well appointed, and it's going to feel super residential. And I think it's going to address the type of office that people want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
People might not have 20,000, a person that has 20,000 square feet might not do 20,000 square feet again, but they might do 5,000 or 7,000 square feet that's so on brand that's like everybody wants to go work there because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And the environment is fantastic, and it's powered by this incredible food and beverage offering that we'll have. So it's like staying at
Staying at the best hotel in
best
the world.
hotel, but it's cool, and it's on a great street,
Yeah.
and you're around cool restaurateurs, and that kind of office, I think, will be a premium. And it's just our basic philosophy in anything we do is you don't want to be in the middle. You actually want to be high, you want to be premium, or you want to be low, and be the best at whatever those two are. Being in the mushy middle is a hard place
That's a
to
great
be.
point.
And so we've decided we want to be at the high level. When I was invited by Femi and Robert Shaw and Invesco to be their partner, I think that was their commitment and our commitment. What we're doing on Henderson from our design perspective and what we're going to be creating it for the office is going to be super elevated. But for a certain archetype of clientele, we're going to be going after a different archetype of clientele, but they're going to demand high quality, high service, and a beautiful environment.
If you've listened to any of our podcasts, we always close out with talking about our favorite restaurants in Dallas. We've talked a lot
We
about
don't want
food
you
and
to
beverage.
alienate all of your restaurateur friends. though.
Yeah, that
My
is.
son-
Yeah.
That's like, oh my gosh.
But if you're date night with your wife Rebecca,
Yeah.
where are you going?
So I'm going to be a chicken a little bit because it's a situational.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Javier's is always like the hundreds and hundreds upon hundreds of times we've gone there. It's just fun and celebratory
Yeah.
and
Consistent.
I mean, the first night that Nick Masinter, our first child, who's now almost
working with
34, 33,
Yeah.
right? His first night out with us in a carrier, several weeks old, was Javier's. But if you forget about Tristan's restaurants on Henderson, but Nick Badavinas, who's one of the most,
He's incredible.
He's incredible. Julian Barsati,
Yep.
Incredible.
and what he's done, incredible. Brady Wood, and the stuff that he's done.
Duro Hospitality.
Duro. I'm just
Charles.
think about what, and all of those. And so, I say that because I don't have favorites.
Yeah.
Think about how the Duro guys have come on.
Yeah.
Right. It's unbelievable.
I think it's kind of what you're in the mood for, right?
It
Yeah.
really is.
Like Mark's saying, any given time, I'm looking at what we want to do for the weekend and go, there's too many options. I
Yeah.
wish the options would stop. Where do I go?
I know. I think he just listed 15 restaurants.
I know
between-
that, but I could keep going. It's like in my neighborhood, we can walk to one of Vandelay's restaurants,
Yeah.
the Hudson House, or the Drake. We can go to Brady's Woodhouse, Jose's. We can go to Macero, which is
Lover Seafood.
Lover Seafood.
Shinsei, Dea.
mean,
So you just named every restaurant in
I mean,
Dallas
yeah.
almost.
It's,
You're right.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
I love them all. It's
Yeah.
like having a favorite kid. I love them all. And-
depending on the day, you might have a favorite.
Well,
kid,
there are
but-
days that you're right. Tracy and Lene and what they've done in our little
Oh, yeah.
neighborhood. It's phenomenal. So I'm not running from the question. It's just really just those few restaurant groups that I've mentioned. They're all doing amazing work.
Yeah, they
and
really
then
are.
You think about where we were 20 years ago. It was like Dean Faring, who's still amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Piles and Kent Rathburn.
Mm-hmm.
Those were like the names. And I guess Teach.
So, like on your Henderson development,
Yeah.
you've probably got you've got great restaurateurs coming to you and saying, "Let me
Yeah.
open up something where you're at or what you're going to develop."
Yeah.
Do you go with the local groups, or do you go bring in a new group from London or some other city or state to give Dallas something different?
It's what we're. Right now, like everything about what we're doing is a curatorial approach. It's like being a merchant. We're trying to decide what are the right couple of concepts, and then going and talking to those folks both locally or outside of Dallas or around the country that we think can do that concept. Because there's certain culinary holes that we think should be filled that haven't been filled, and so we're being, we're just focused on it. We're being
purposeful.
intentional on it. There's certain people that are great in a certain genre, and there's certain people that you shouldn't try to force to do that genre. We're in the early stages of really talking to operators, and it's fun. But if you think about it, some of the restaurants we talked about, like how long has Javier's been around?
Oh my gosh.
Right? Think about some of the restaurants that are already on Henderson, The Porch, Teon, Fireside Pies. So when you pick good ones, they stick.
They stay.
And they become the fabric of the neighborhood. So what we're trying to do in a very risky business that the average restaurant fails within 9 months is pick amazing operators with the right concepts that are going to become a part of the fabric of the community. And so that's a
hard task.
That's
Yeah.
a hard
Yeah.
task.
Well, Mark, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
You
It's
have
awesome.
been
It was so
a
fun.
real pleasure to spend time with today.
Thank you.
And we really respect all the work that you've done and continue to do. And we love our partnership with you and your firm. And so we just wanted to end this with saying thank you.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure and a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for tuning in to Credible Talk. We'll see you next time.